these Ukrainian children who were abducted as part of a state program by Russia to Russify them, take them from their families and move them into Russia. Why did the State Department cut off funding to one of the programs that helps find these kids? It's a Yale University program. And they said the money was cut off. There are senators, including Grassley and Tillis, who want to know why. Do you know why? Well, Secretary Rubio is conducting a review of all of those programs. I can't speak to that specific one, but I can say... Because it seems at odds with...
As a fierce advocate for children and someone who's been outspoken about the ways that this regime is actively hurting America's children and directly causing the deaths of millions of little kids around the world, I've been wanting to talk about this for a few days. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to it before, but I'm covering it now. You may not have heard about it because it's kind of been buried. For a while now, Putin has been taking a play from America's book of how to enact a cultural genocide against its own indigenous people by stealing children away from their families and indoctrinating them in the oppressor's culture, attempting to assimilate them. We did it by putting kids in residential schools, and he is doing it much the same way Canada did by kidnapping children, Ukrainian children, and putting them with Russian families in order to Russify them. And I first became aware of this issue on March 19th when I read an article in the New Republic, and I want to share a little bit about it now. It's called Trump-Musk Scandal on Ukrainian Kids Stolen by Russia Just Got Darker. It's by Greg Sargent from March 19th. Data vital to tracking these abducted Ukrainian children may have suddenly disappeared. A bipartisan group of House members wants to know who did this and why. Obviously, this is going to bring up a greater issue of how much Donald Trump and Elon Musk are both being controlled by Vladimir Putin. So, if not Russian asset, why Russian asset shaped? By the way, it's not Trump and Musk who are going to take the fall for this. Did you notice in that clip that he immediately pointed to Marco Rubio? A number of us have been saying for several days, even weeks, that Rubio is going to be the fall guy for a lot of what's happening. If one is needed, it will be Rubio. For days now, the State Department has remained mum about the news that it terminated a contract with a humanitarian group that was tracking the fate of Ukrainian children abducted by Russia after the Russian invasion. The revelation, which was first reported over a week ago, suggests that the United States may now be in the position of helping Russia bury a potential war crime, complicating negotiations to end the Russian-Ukraine war. Just keep adding to the list of war crimes that Donald Trump is committing or supporting other regimes in committing. The State Department won't explain why this contract was terminated, and they can't even explain how it happened at all. But now this developing scandal has gotten worse. The underlying data collected in the course of tracking these children may have been deleted in connection with this contract's termination. Over a dozen members of Congress have charged in a letter that they sent to Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. Keep in mind, this is bipartisan concern. All of these GOP members of the House and the Senate who are falling in line with the Trump regime for whatever reason, they don't like Russia. They want to vote in support of Ukraine. They understand that Russia is our adversary, not our friend. And the more that we fall under their control, the more dangerous that becomes for all of us. And yet they continue to comply. They continue to bend the knee to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. When you get to the end of this video, it's a good time to call your Republican members of Congress and ask why they're okay with this happening. Ask them if they support the Ukrainian people or are they an asset of Vladimir Putin. What's more, the nonprofit tracking these children has now lost access to the satellite imagery they were using to keep tabs on where these kids are. And that means those children may just completely disappear from view. There are no monitors attempting to keep tabs on where they are so that they can be returned to their families. If true, this could have devastating consequences, the reps wrote in their letter. The letter is spearheaded by Democratic Representative Greg Landsman of Ohio, and its other signatories include two Republicans, Don Bacon of Nebraska and Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania. This dark turn will put Rubio at an increasingly awkward position and raise more questions about how the State Department handled this termination and whether it cavalierly put extraordinarily consequential data at risk. Once again, as Musk has done over and over again. It will also prompt more scrutiny of the role of Pete Maracco, who's been installed at the State Department to carry out Elon Musk's demolition of the government from within. These contracts were canceled. These children who have been stolen from their families have been lost because of Elon Musk. And his boy at the State Department, Pete Maracco, is known to sympathize with pro-Russian strongmen and dictators. The contract, which was approved by the Biden administration, was given to Yale University's School of Public Health and Humanitarian Research Lab. It's been using sophisticated technology to identify and locate Ukrainian children taken by Russia. This act by Russia has been labeled a war crime, including by the International Criminal Court. Y'all, we're talking thousands of Ukrainian children have been stolen from their families, and this Yale lab was able to identify who they are and where they're located, a crucial first step in getting them back and reunited with their families. Thousands of children. The contract was frozen in January by Elon Musk, and then it was terminated by the State Department. And now it appears that all of the underlying evidence and data that was gathered was not only not transferred to Europol, it has been deleted. There is also evidence that they will not be transferring any of the remaining data to Ukraine either. Skipping down a bit, the question here is what happened to all of the evidence and data? In their letter, the lawmakers make a startling assertion. The repository containing all of that secure data in a secure location is missing. Elon Musk did that. His boy Pete Morocco at the State Department did that. Let's not mince words about this. The State Department's termination of this contract not only interrupted the transfer of evidence of potential Russian war crimes to European allies, it may also have erased all of the evidence altogether. This could get dicey for Rubio. Remember when I just said this clip that came out this morning? They're making Rubio the fall guy for this. While President Trump and Musk have not disguised their alignment with Russia in this war, Rubio, once a fierce critic of Vladimir Putin as a senator, has struck a neutral posture. He has sold his motherfucking soul, I'm telling you. He carefully says Ukrainian interests must be honored in any peace deal, with Ukraine calling for a return of the kidnapped children to be a part of any agreement. Rubio himself has explicitly said addressing their abductions must play a role in any settlement, and yet he let this happen. So who's in charge of the State Department, Rubio? It's clearly not you if this happened under your watch. It's clearly Elon Musk. Who exactly ordered the termination of this program, and did that person have a role in the disappearance of this information? Musk's boy Morocco, for instance, has become a kind of terminator-in-chief inside the government, almost single-handedly carrying out Musk's demand for total demolition of the United States Agency for International Development, something cheered on by Russia and other dictators abroad. You know that when a dictator and your adversary is cheering your actions, that what is happening is not in the best interest of the American people. The article goes on to say there is some evidence that Morocco himself may have been the one to delete the information. The story is likely to get bigger and a lot darker too. I don't understand how Republican members of Congress are not flipping out about this. Russia has never been our friend. We now have known Russian adversaries, sympathizers with Putin and other dictators who are in the pocket of Putin, installed in various important offices in our federal government, including the White House. And yet the GOP members of Congress are not rolling out articles of impeachment. They're not having investigations. Ooh, they sent a strongly worded letter. That's great that 2 Republicans stood up and signed on to that letter. This is a war crime. Thousands of children have been stolen from their families and placed with Russian families where they are likely being abused and definitely being indoctrinated. This is the very definition of cultural genocide when you do this kind of a thing. This is a war crime. And our State Department is now complicit in enabling it, allegedly.